gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the universe, here in this great hall of justice, are the most powerful forces of good ever assembled. Dedicated to truth, justice, and peace for all mankind.
Ladies and gentlemen, DC presents the Doomsday Clock. Jeff Johns brought this back to us. We have the Watchmen, we have Superman. What are we going to do? What is going to happen? PD, Cal, Rocket.
Well, this one's going to be a little different because we're also going to go through a little, like a succession of how we got to the Doomsday Clock and a little overview of Jeff Johns' career that got us to this point. So I think we're going to let Cal lead us off because we've been, planning this out. So we're going to start that way and then
Come
we're
with
going
us
to
back to 1986. 1986, where DC, in its infinite wisdom, decided that it would make everything that they had done for the last 40-some-odd years, almost 50 years, irrelevant, with a series known as Crisis on Infinite Earths. Now, this series was very influential to a young man who would one day become the chief creative officer of DC Comics, Jeff Johns.
Yes, Jeff Johns.
And Jeff Johns has this fixation, this titillation, this...
Well, let's not say it's the bad thing about it, but he does have a fixation.
Just the facts, man. Just the facts.
A fixation.
Just the facts. Just the facts.
What's wrong with the titillation?
Just the facts. Just the facts.
Okay, with all things Crisis. Yeah. So we have seen Jeff Johns execute. Look, we've seen Jeff Johns execute some things that were very well received, and to be quite honest, very well written. If you look at his run on JSA, really good stuff. Okay, everybody. I'll argue with anyone if you want to say anything negative about his run on Green Lantern. I didn't really think Hal Jordan needed to be brought back, but he brought him back, made him viable, and told some really good stories in the process. However, Jeff Johns seems to get a really big pass for all of the things that he's done that have been, what's the word? What is the word? Destructive to the DC universe. First up, okay, let's just go with the most recent offense. And the most recent offense is Flashpoint. Jeff Johns is always the guy who writes these things, implements them, and then later on it becomes, well, I was just following orders. I was just following orders or something to that extent. Doomsday Clock for me,
stay in there. Stay in. Don't
represents Doomsday Clock for me just represents everything that Jeff Johns has to offer in terms of the negative and in terms of the positive. But I'm leaning a little bit more towards the negative because we seem to forget all the stuff that Jeff Johns does, and nobody ever slates him for it. Jeff Johns decides he's going to retool Captain Marvel, turn Captain Marvel into Shazam, take away the classic outfit, put him into some hip-hop hood and go-go boots. It doesn't work. Nobody seems to remember that. Everyone just seems to, oh no, it's Jeff Johns at the helm. So now when it comes to Doomsday Clock, and of course, my big problem, the thing that I'm always looking out for, is the S. Is always Superman. So I'm reading through the interview here, and what is the interview saying? It's like, okay, so what's Superman's role in this? Everybody else is looking, oh, this is good stuff. I'm thinking, no, what's the Superman aspect in him? And the line stood out for me. What are the flaws in Superman? How far can he fall? I'm like, oh, God. Once more, you're going to try to deconstruct this dude. Dude, you already had your shot at that with Secret Origin. And because Jeff Johns is creative officer, Secret Origins is still on the books.
Oh, it is? Well, wait a second. While we're on Secret Origin, what did you feel about that reboot?
Unnecessary. I mean, it brought back some elements that I liked, but then overall, it didn't do what it needed to do because it was a rehash of stuff that had been done over. They want to push Superman forward. You have to push him forward. You have to let go of the farm boy stuff. You have to say, look, return the fact that he's a scientist. Allow him to be intellectually curious. Get him off planet Earth every once in a while. Let him be the cosmic figure he's supposed to because he's been on Earth for over 30 years now. It's okay. You can broaden the wings a little bit. But because he's chief executive officer, that got to stand. Look, how many misses has Jeff Johns had? And it just seems to roll off of him. Why?
Well, that's
what about the hits? Such as the whole Rebirth.
No, don't look at Rebirth. Look at what came before Rebirth.
Look at Rebirth. I mean,
don't look at Rebirth.
We should look at Rebirth.
Look at New 52. Look at New 52, and
he's the lead writer on the JLA. The JLA is the star titles in the New 52, and he was the lead writer. Had all of the. Good point. It's not anymore, but Rebirth is another. he's a part of both of them.
Yeah.
You can't, if he did Flashpoint, and Flashpoint is the catalyst
Right,
to.
but now he is a creative officer now. Before he was one of the editors.
You don't get credit.
I think
You don't get credit for throwing the mud and then saying, you did a really good job cleaning it up. No, you shouldn't have thrown the mud in the first place.
He's building the house. You're missing the point. Probably the first time.
The house is built already. It's not his house.
Well,
Rebirth, he
no,
rebuilt it.
yeah, all right.
They're kicking ass right now with
Okay,
Marvel.
there you
Look,
go.
I don't know why I
Yeah.
always have to be the DC guy and you got to always be the Marvel apologist. That's not
It's
the
not
case.
about Marvel
We like
wasn't
them
even
both.
involved in this.
I'm not saying it's just how I
All
always
right, no,
feel.
You
no,
just
I-
brought Marvel into this.
Yeah,
All right,
I'm just
yeah,
saying
there
it's
you
how-
go.
Anytime you start losing, you got to start looking for these comparatives that
Oh
aren't there.
my gosh.
Oh, wait.
Let's go back to what we're talking about.
I want to go back. To. There's a point where he was doing Flash. He was doing Hawkman. These books are really pushing. And JSA. He's starting to move off of JSA, but that's a strong book. He got like 3 books going. I think he wrote with David Goyer on the JSA.
Yeah.
Once
The Magic Team.
there's a book called Identity Crisis, another crisis thing, but done by Brad Meltzer. That one really pushed forth the darker elements, Jeff Johns had some dark elements with Zoom and, that sort of thing, but then he did a JLA story, which was a crisis of conscience, I think it's something like that, where they had the aspect of Batman's mind being wiped also because of what happened to Sue Jinby. So they wiped off.
Wasn't it all in? I thought that was all in Identity Crisis.
He did a separate thing because
Okay.
they didn't really deal with what Batman's reaction.
Okay.
So Flash is like, "What about Batman? What did Batman say?" He said, "Oh, I didn't say Batman was in it." And Flash is like, "Wait a second, you just said Batman." And he's like, "Oh, Batman was upset, and we wiped his mind too." And then they let Batman know, and then it breaks up the whole Justice League, and they start the title over again. So one of the things when you had that. A little while after that, they do a story which is called, what was it? They had Crisis, Infinite Crisis.
Right.
It's so nutty because everyone says Superboy is the one doing the continuity punches, but it's also the classic Superman who's busted him out and breaking up continuity. And it's the nuttiest story. Every fan was saying, "What are these continuity punches?" And everyone's joking about it, but it's selling like gangbusters. And then they rope in George Perez, and he does this gorgeous art. But it's like there's killing, people die, and then after that, then there's his first step as being one of the top is when he does the 52 series. Remember the 52 series? And basically they said that every other writer is like, you got to jump forward a year because we're doing the real stories in 52, and you guys have to be a year advanced. So it's like some writers had to chuck like a bunch of stories just for this 52, and it has Grant Morrison, but Jeff Johns is the lead writer of that. And then that's where it goes. He starts to just go he starts to go a little further than he was, where he was continuity guy, and now he's crisis and continuity, where he's like mixing and matching, and then you get Secret Origin, you get Flashpoint, you get a lot of stuff that isn't what we.
So what are you saying? Let's just get down to distill it to the essence.
Doomsday Clock.
Yes, that's a good
Let's
point.
distill it
Doomsday Clock is, how is this going to work? I mean, the problem is that we've been only hinted what this thing is going to be about. We don't really know, and he's been in the background as far as before Watchmen. He hasn't really done anything yet besides the first Rebirth issue where he put the button in the Batcave. So he hasn't done too much connecting him with the Watchmen, where everyone else took the blame for before Watchmen. Where now we see he was involved some way in wanting this project to happen, which led directly into this Doomsday Clock. And everyone's complaining about it, but now everyone's
complaining. What streets? I haven't heard any complaints.
Everyone's saying
everybody's
they
loving. They're loving.
They
the
did
fact-
not go
they're
back
lo-
and
they're
read
loving
before
the
Watchmen
fact-
and all the other creators that got,
I'm not hearing from the creators, but the streets is watching. And the
No,
streets
the
want
fans
to see,
complained
they
about
wanna
it.
See it
Now-
happen.
Doomsday Clock. He's already said this is not going to be. Oh, it's not going to be Superman versus Dr. Manhattan. It's going to be Superman versus Dr. Manhattan.
There's
Okay?
going to be a punch thrown some point.
And his record right now, when it comes to dealing with Superman or his examination of Superman, is spotty. And then my whole thing when it comes to it is like, what is the purpose? It goes into what PD highlighted before. DC's marketing, with Rebirth has been spot on. Okay, they're showing a little.
Thank you.
They show a little ankle. not even leg. They show a little ankle with Watchmen. They take it right back. That whole thing with the Button series that we reviewed, that thing sold like you would never believe. And nothing happened. What happened at the end of the Button? They said, hey, buy this book coming out later on. And it's supposed to come out.
That's how we got to this.
I heard they're supposed to come out with a trade paperback. And the trade paperback is also supposed to have what in it? Doomsday Clock. So that means if you wait long enough, you can get all of this stuff without any problem.
That's weird, because I heard the opposite, that it may not have it in it.
I don't forget who told me. I don't know if it was you who told me. Oh, yeah, it might have been you who told me it. So the way they're marketing this whole thing is just like, hey, monkey, let's see how let's see how you can jump for these bananas. Let's just see how it goes.
They're really doing that to us as fans.
But it's intriguing us, right? I mean, it's intriguing us, especially
no, because these guys,
world
they know the answer. They know the answer to the world that they've created already. The DC universe is not some place that's predicated on flaws, on trauma, or anything of that nature. The DC universe is people who they have the light, okay, they have the heroism in them, and they go with it, okay? They don't resist it, they don't question it. They are wonderfully born with these moral competencies that tell them, this is what we need to do. We don't have to think about it because this is the right thing to do, and they can just go off to the races with it. It's not the Marvel universe, okay? It's the DC universe. When you get into something like Doomsday Clock, and you're going to ask, hey, how far can Superman fall? What are the flaws in Superman? What you're saying is that the universe that was pretty much based on this character is flawed. How far can this fall? And you've already answered that with New 52. It can fall very, very far if you decide that you don't want to do what's at the core of the universe that you've created.
But hold on a second. Isn't what they've done now with the new rebirth of the new Superman, they've tried to incorporate the best aspects of Superman, classic as well as current?
No.
You just said in a past review, in one of the past reviews, that they've done a better job of depicting Superman than they did previously in 52.
What they've done is they took the Superman that they got rid of and they brought him back, and then they said we're going to merge. They did 4 issues, and they said everything that happened with the New 52 Superman, we're merging that. So it did happen, and they're trying to do a new timeline. But if the question was, or if the problem was Superman, we feel that he's run aground, he's not selling as well anymore. We need to be able to reintroduce him to people. We don't want to change the character, repackage him. They did that with New 52, and it fell flat on its face. Right. They didn't do anything different. They just brought the other guy back. It's literally, like, okay, I fired Petey, and I put you on. After 5 months, after 5 months, after 5 months, it's like, hey, this isn't working out. Let me bring Petey back. Petey comes back and does the job he's always been doing. Everybody's like, yeah, this is great. Like, no, if I let go of Petey because I wanted somebody who was going to push more and do some other stuff, all I got back, I got competency back. Okay, I have normalcy back. I haven't necessarily gone and done the things that were needed. So now when we're looking at it,
I was going to say you should have used, new Coke and classic Coke. But once you said competency, then you can use me again. So,
so when you look, am I going to read Doomsday Clock? Definitely. Am I actually looking forward to it? Definitely. Because hey,
you're looking forward to it?
Yes.
I'm worried.
I look forward
that
to
Doomsday is going to be in it.
No.
I
always look forward to these things. I always look forward to these things because I say there's like one or two. Once a decade, there's a great Superman story that's told. Like in the last one, it was All-Star Superman. This one's 7 years in. Who knows? This may be that great story where somebody comes in, does a really good examination of the character, cuts loose, and presents us with something that okay, this is where we can go. This will be at the very least some guide for us going forward. This is what fans are responding to. This is what readers are responding to, and we can shape it a little bit towards that. However, Jeff Johns killed the Golden Age Superman in Infinite Crisis, and he turned Superboy into one of the worst caricatures of a villain I have ever seen.
Well, and
for no reason.
And you know what? You are 100% right. And I think that this is an example of him trying to correct the Superman. This is why the Superman.
Correct.
I think there's going to be. This is where
no, you don't need to correct Superman. You need to come up with some good ideas.
Superman. This is what I've heard. That they're going to do a new rebirth of Superman.
Another one? They just did one.
I'm just saying to try
rebirth, to reborn. What's it going to be now?
So that's
after reborn birth.
This is where we're going to see this series is going to be focused basically on Superman, Dr. Manhattan, unlike the others. And I think you're going to see a lot more development of the Superman character, and hopefully it'll capture that golden age feel that you want back for Superman. And then
I don't want a golden age feel. Bronze age.
Bronze age feel of Superman, and then you get back what you want. Because the title, like you said before, Superman is one of those tentpole characters that brings others along. Right now,
my big concern is always going to be Superman. Overall, it's that, look, I really hope that at the end of the day, look, I won't take nothing away from Jeff Johns as a writer. However, this guy escapes a lot. You know, of the slate that get Dan Didio gets it, Jim Leo gets some, and Jeff Johns is right up there with it.
So, as you were saying, Petey?
Well, I think this is, I mean, it's been an interesting sort of thing for the fans, because we had before Watchmen, which was, and it sold, but it was railed, critically, been railed by the fans, people complained about it. Then when the connection with the rebirth to the before Watchmen, that set the, the books, a couple of books on the before Watchmen, the sales went up, as the back issues went up crazy. So then it's like, we're going to get a crossover. Once they say crossover between DC and Watchmen, then the fans are on board, where they're saying this, sacrilegious to sort of do anything with the Watchmen. Now having a crossover, the fans are like, yes, this is something new. And it's like, no, it's wrong to connect the two, then it's wrong to do this. But this is also, every creator gets to that point where they have to sort of tear down what Alan Moore did. Once they get to the top, Grant Morrison, he's touched on some Watchmen elements, and now Jeff Johns is there. So he's there, and I don't think Mark Waid, but Mark Waid has pushed it as far. I guess you can even go to Twilight, because Twilight was the book that luckily Alan Moore didn't get to do, and then Mark Waid got to do Kingdom Come, which is close to it. But I mean, it wasn't as dark and as crazy as what Alan Moore was planning. But that's the thing that fans are going to jump to this. I just hope that Doomsday isn't actually in this, because there's a clock in Watchmen, but the Doomsday part, is they going to have Superman, Dr. Manhattan, and Doomsday? That's when they're officially gone too far.
Probably they'll have the Dr. Manhattan as a Watchmen-like figure.
Well, I hope it's not a thing where they're just talking in a bar or something like that. There's a lot of talking heads and him explaining to Superman what he's done wrong or something like that.
So wait a second, you want Dr. Manhattan to fight Superman? That's what you're telling
I don't
us?
know what it's going to be.
I'm just saying we're speculating. I'm just saying, do you want him to fight? Would you like to see him fight?
What else can happen in it? They can't be sitting around.
It could be a Watchman.
Unless we get Neil Adams to draw it. It's going to not really be that great of a book of them talking in the bar about what Superman did wrong. And it's got to be something where he's almost like I think you would go to Superman versus like the Spectre. That's what they're going to try to go for. That this is big, huge, character that's out of Superman's realm of thinking and power, and Superman's like trying to, I don't know what to do. And the clock is ticking. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But it's just he's not a megalomaniac, but he has a ton of power now. So it's just hard to say what this book is going to be. So it's hard to gauge.
So are you interested in this in the book?
No, I'm not really into many crossovers. I think you should just do basic stories. Before Watchmen, I was okay with that. They stayed within it. They didn't go out. They didn't try to create something to negated Watchmen, so it was just a fine story. But they didn't try to connect them with the DC universe. Once you get the crossover, it's just interesting to me to see how the fans react, because the fans are so against doing anything again, touching on Alan Moore stuff, and now he's really going as the top creator and punching that Alan Moore hole and saying, no, I get to punch the holes in it. I get to connect them to the regular DC universe.
What about you, Cal?
What about me?
I mean, what do you think? You think this is going to be a series? You said you're interested in watching. Do you think this is going to be something?
I read this because I'm more of a Superman completist, so I pick up all this stuff. Okay, how does this affect Superman? And like I said before, once a decade, you usually tend to get this one good Superman story that's pretty much the driving force for Superman afterwards, though they didn't really pick up with that with All-Star Superman. All-Star Superman tend to be its own thing, and they kept floundering, as to what they wanted to do with Superman. So I'm going to have a look at it, and I'll see. Jeff Johns' hand with Superman, I mean, like I already said, it's spotty when it comes to Superman, and this looks like one of these things where it's not going to be adventure or action. It's going to be introspection, and these guys don't necessarily do that very well. They don't. So we'll see. I'll see how it goes. November will get here soon enough. Okay, and I'll read it.
Hopefully, it's a good story, and they can segue this into the Man of Steel movies.
Okay,
what?
Spin a rack out.
Yeah.
Too insane.
Knockout.